Hey everybody, how's it going? One of my earlier videos, quite a long time ago, I did was about my opinion about precision scheduled railroading (PSR). Union Pacific called theirs the United 2020 Plan. BNSF didn't technically engage in PSR per se, but they had been kind of doing it already. They operated that way prior to all this becoming a thing. And some of the things that have affected some of the other railroads, the way PSR has affected them, has affected BNSF too. But these are basically economic, supply chain, and infrastructure problems outside the railroad. Not all of it. Some of it is definitely within the railroad. One of the things that's going on right now is that with the decrease in restrictions, import restrictions, things are piling up at, in this specific case, the Port of Los Angeles, and things are getting piled up in the Chicago marshaling yards. I read an article about 3 weeks ago. This is actually the third time that I've started a video on this, because every time I would do a video, something else would pop up in the news about how all this has been affected and some of the other issues that were involved. So by the time I got those recorded, they were already wrong, or I should say already behind. One of the issues is they don't have enough crews to get the trains, once they've got to Chicago and been broken up into their constituents, wherever they're going to go. They don't have enough crews to man all those trains. And the Port of Los Angeles, Chicago's backed up. And this article, I should say, this article that I read was about the Los Angeles-Chicago problem. If the yards in Chicago are tied up, there's no place to put anything, so things are getting stacked up at the Port of Los Angeles. Trains aren't running, and they're having, from what I understand, what they're calling a chassis shortage. They don't have a shortage of tractors to pull these things over the road, this intermodal, because intermodal is the biggest problem. And there isn't necessarily a shortage of tractors, but a shortage of chassis to haul all these intermodals out of these yards. I don't know exactly how all that works. I've never gone to an intermodal yard and watched them work. I've watched them unload ships at the Port of Los Angeles, but no, I've never watched how the railroad operates, and I've never watched how the trucking industry operates out of these facilities. If you have, leave the comments below about some of the things I may have missed, or some of the things I may be missing or mistaken about. I got curious about it after I read some of this stuff and was wondering about how the railroads are actually doing financially, and that is what is going to make or break PSR as to whether or not they're going to keep doing it. As far as just seeing trains out there, I haven't gone out and shot a lot of videos recently because it's been really, really hot around here. Even in Tehachapi up in the hills, it's been hot. So I've been taking it easy. But I was up to Depot the other day working at the museum, and in the 6 hours I worked, there were 8 trains. One of the other days that I worked recently, there were none. All day. We didn't see any trains the whole day we were there. So it's hit and miss. It's a crapshoot. So you can't say they aren't running trains. They're certainly not running them consistently over the mountain, which isn't unusual, really. But anyway, I'm blind here. Both the railroads, I looked them up, seem to be doing okay. Union Pacific, second quarter 2021 compared to 2020, operating revenue up 30%, business volumes up 22%, operating ratio of 55.1, which means that for every dollar they earn, they're spending 55.1 cents, and that is improved by 590 points, even though fuel prices went up and negatively affected that by 210 points. So they would really have done a lot better if diesel hadn't gotten so expensive over the last year. Operating income was up 50% ahead of the same time in 2020. And these are all second quarter. These are all second quarter numbers. And the company repurchased 12.2 million shares in the second quarter at aggregate cost of $2.7 billion. Quarterly freight car velocity was down 6%. Locomotive productivity was up 3%. Average maximum train length was 9,410 feet, a 9% increase. So they are running longer trains, but that's easy to see when you're out there shooting videos. Workforce productivity was a 22% improvement. I don't know if that's because of job cuts or what. It doesn't really get into it. The reportable person injury rate increased from 0.83 to 0.95. That's pretty significant. That's a pretty significant increase, really. Let's see here. BNSF. BNSF, they report their stuff a little bit differently. But their revenues, consumer products up 19%, agricultural up 16%, industrial 2%, coal 11%, total freight revenues up 12%, total operating revenues up 12%, volumes, consumer products up 21%, agricultural products up 12%, industrial products up 1%, coal up 7%. Average revenues, blah, 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 blah. Those are some of the straight up numbers. There's some stuff that I saw in the Union Pacific about the diluted shares being better. 2.2, I think, was 2.27 this year, and they were 1.67 last year. So that's an increase. And diluted and basic shares out, blah, blah, blah. Bunch of stock stuff. But they're doing okay. They're doing okay. I do a lot of stuff on railroad pages on Facebook, railroad groups, and I was in some groups that a lot of the CSX and Norfolk Southern people were on there saying that they were doing poorly. I didn't look up their stuff. I'm not going to get into it. Doesn't really matter. But UP and BNSF out here in my corner of the world seem to be doing okay. PSR seems to be working out for them, regardless of the challenges the railroads are facing right now, getting things out of Los Angeles and out of Chicago and running trains. The article I read, gosh, like I said, it's been 3 weeks ago, but it talked about the percentage of trains that decline, and I don't remember what it was. It wasn't giant, but it was significant. They weren't even running any trains at one point to Chicago out of the Port of Los Angeles. They were taking them other places, into the Pacific Northwest and down the Sunset Route and down that way, but as far as running them across the country to Chicago, evidently the number of trains they were running was down. Does that have something to do with longer trains? Because I know that once they get them off the mountain out in the flat desert, they're actually taking 2 trains and making them one and running super long trains out there. Is that part of the problem of the numbers? I don't know. I still don't think that in the long run PSR is going to be good for the railroads. As I said, some of the people back east said they're already having all kinds of problems and they've already had to hire people back. I don't know if that's, like I said, I didn't look any of that up. It's not my corner of the world. If you're in that corner of the world and you have some accurate information about that, drop it in the comments below. I'd be interested, and I'm sure some other people would too. The deferred maintenance part of PSR, at least on the Tehachapi, that's already been canned. When I retired and shortly thereafter for a while, I don't recall when it stopped, but they always had what they called Maintenance Mondays, and they gave them windows for the track department, the maintenance way, to go out and do maintenance on the tracks between Bakersfield and Mojave. And they stopped doing that. They weren't going to do that anymore. They were only going to hand out tracking time as needed, and this maintenance would be deferred. They wouldn't have these windows anymore, and I don't know why. I don't know if they started having maintenance issues or if they just made the decision to stop doing that, but they now have Maintenance Mondays again. So if you're a rail fan and you want to go watch trains on the Tehachapi, don't go on Mondays because you're not going to see anything. The windows usually start around 8 in the morning and last anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. So they're not running any trains. That is the part that I figured would go first. That's what, when Southern Pacific did this way back when, that was the first problems they began having, was with the physical plant, the track structure, switches, things like that weren't being tended to as they should. PSR seems to be working so far, but it worked short term for Southern Pacific too. It just didn't work in the long run. Perhaps that's what's happened over on the East Coast with CSX and NS. I don't know, but we'll continue to see what happens with it around here, and as I read more about what's going on, if things start taking a nosedive, I'll make another video. Let me know what you think of this one, what you think of PSR, and where you think it's going on the West Coast. If you're on the East Coast, let me know what's going on over there. Drop the comments below. Shoot me an email at motorpoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content. I'll see you all later.